Boston, 1950, a real-life heist so bold. It redefined organized crime in the United States. In a world still recovering from the wounds of World War II, America was booming. The economy was rebounding, cities were growing, and trust in institutions was high. People were focused on rebuilding their lives, dreaming big, and chasing the American dream. But in the shadowy alleyways of Boston's North End, a different kind of dream was taking shape. A dream not of hard work and upward mobility, but of easy money. Pulled off with surgical precision and nerves of steel. On January 17, 1950, a group of ordinary-looking men pulled off the most sensational, most meticulously planned armed robbery in US history, disguised, silent, and relentless. They entered the Brinks armored car depot and walked out with $2.775 million in cash, checks, and money orders. It was the perfect crime almost. For years, it went unsolved. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no clues. The public was stunned. The media was obsessed. The FBI was humiliated. This is not just the story of a robbery. It's the story of planning, betrayal, greed, and the fragile line between loyalty and paranoia. This is the story of the Brinks job, America's crime of the century. Every criminal masterpiece starts with a mastermind. And for the Brinks job, that man was Tony Pino. Pino was a career criminal, smooth, smart, and deeply embedded in Boston's underworld. Unlike the trigger-happy gangsters of Hollywood, Pino was careful, calculating, a planner. And in 1947, he began watching the Brinks armored car depot on Prince Street in Boston's North End from the outside. It was an unassuming building, but inside, it was a fortress and a vault. Brinks was responsible for transporting millions of dollars daily between banks, businesses, and the Federal Reserve. It was one of the most secure places in the city. Also, they thought. Pino recruited a team of 10 other men-trusted crooks with records, skills, and above all, loyalty. These were not amateurs. They had experience in safe cracking, robbery, forgery, and surveillance. For over 2 years, the gang studied the depot like scientists. They noted every routine. When money arrived, when guards changed, where keys were stored. They even obtained copies of keys to the depot by lifting impressions from guards. Actual keys using wax molds. By late 1949, Pino believed the plan was ready. They would strike on a Tuesday night, just before 7:00 p.m., when money was piled high, but the armored trucks were done for the day. The gang rehearsed. They timed themselves. They made backup plans. They procured matching uniforms, rubber masks, and inside information from a disgruntled former Brinks employee. They weren't just planning a robbery. They were planning the perfect heist. January 17, 1950, a bitterly cold Tuesday evening in Boston. At exactly 6:55 p.m., a group of masked men pulled up outside the Brinks depot in a stolen Ford Stake body truck. They wore navy blue coats, chauffeurs' caps, and grotesque rubber Halloween masks with exaggerated features. The driver stayed in the vehicle. The rest moved silently. The front door opened with their copy of the key. Inside, 5 employees were sorting cash for delivery the next day. Within seconds, the robbers were on them, guns drawn, but silent. No shots were fired. No names spoken. The gang herded the employees into a corner and tied them up with rope. They warned them not to move. Then, they went to work. They loaded bags of cash, coins, and checks into duffel bags with lightning speed. It took just 17 minutes. The total take, $2.775 million, equivalent to over $33 million today. And then, just as quickly, they vanished. No alarms triggered. No one saw them leave. Boston police arrived later that evening. What they found shocked them. No fingerprints, no signs of forced entry, no shell casings, no tools left behind. The only clue, a discarded cap on the stairs. That was it. The media called it the crime of the century. The FBI, Massachusetts State Police, and Boston PD launched one of the most intense manhunts in American history. They questioned known gangsters, ex-Brinks employees, and anyone with a connection to the North End underworld. Thousands of leads poured in. The Brinks job became front-page news for months. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover personally monitored the case. He was furious that such a high-profile robbery could happen on American soil with no suspects, no evidence, and no results. Brinks doubled its security. The public panicked. Bank deposits dropped. But the gang, they had disappeared into the fog. What no one knew was that the loot had been divided and stashed across Boston, hidden in safes, buried in cellars, tucked away in attics. The gang had agreed to wait at least 6 years before touching any of the money after the statute of limitations expired. but criminals are rarely known for patience. Tensions within the gang began to rise. Some members wanted their share now, others worried someone would talk. And then, just like clockwork, the plan began to unravel. It only took one weak link. Joseph Specs O'Keefe, the getaway driver, was in trouble. He'd been arrested in Pennsylvania on unrelated charges, broke and facing prison. O'Keefe wanted his share of the Brinks' money to hire a lawyer, but the gang refused. They told him to stay quiet, ride it out. O'Keefe didn't take it well. He started talking, and when he was shot at in an apparent hit attempt likely ordered by Tony Pino himself, O'Keefe snapped. In 1953, O'Keefe cut a deal with the FBI. He named names, described details, led agents to hidden cash. It was the break the FBI had been waiting for. One by one, the suspects were arrested. Tony Pino, Joe McGinnis, Vincent Costa, Stanley Gusero, Michael Geegan, Thomas Sandy Richardson, Adolphe Jazz Maffei, Henry Baker, James Faherty, Joseph O'Keefe turned state's witness. The charges: robbery, conspiracy, assault, and more. The Brinks robbery trial in 1956 was a media circus. Every day, the courtroom was packed. Reporters camped outside. The nation watched as prosecutors laid out the timeline, evidence, and testimonies. O'Keefe testified in graphic detail, turning on his old crew. The defense claimed he was lying to save his own skin, but the evidence was overwhelming. Hidden cash, surveillance records, testimony, matching uniforms and tools. After weeks of courtroom drama, the verdict was clear: guilty. Each of the convicted men received life sentences, though not all the money was ever recovered. $1.5 million remained missing. Justice had been served, and the FBI had its victory. Tony Pino died in prison. Others were paroled decades later. The Brinks job didn't just end with jail time, it lived on in movies, books, and American law. It inspired the 1978 film, The Brinks Job, starring Peter Falk, directed by William Friedkin, The Exorcist, and produced by Dino De Laurentiis. It influenced dozens of heist thrillers, from Ocean's 11 to Heat to The Town. More importantly, it changed how law enforcement handled organized crime. It led to advances in forensics, improvements in armored car security, coordination between federal and local law enforcement. But it also cemented the idea of the heist in the American imagination. Carefully planned, daring, just one step from perfect, the Brinks job was more than a robbery. It was a test of loyalty, a chess game with the FBI, a myth that grew larger than the money itself. Was it the perfect crime? Almost, but in the end, it proved a timeless truth. No secret stays buried forever. Thanks for watching Crimes Through Time. If this story fascinated you, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more long-form documentaries that dive deep into the darkest chapters of history. Would you take the risk if the payout was millions? Until next time, stay curious, stay safe,